Hark, fair maiden. I am Sir Steffi, and I'm here to whisk thee away to my castle, or rather to teach thee how to transform your apartment into a castle of thine own. Okay, so I realized that there could not be anything more opposite than a rental apartment and a castle, but here we are. Today I'm going to explore the Castlecore aesthetic and give you some ideas on how you can channel the spirit and fantasy of it through your decor and turn your small apartment into a castle of sorts fit for a powerful queen, or king, or knight in shining armor, or court jester, or gargoyle. I'm all of the above depending on the day. However you identify, Castlecore is a beautiful way to transport yourself to a magical domain instead of settling for a builder-grade landlord special beige box that screams late-stage capitalism chic. Nay, we must fight against our boring modern-day apartments with the strength of 100 dragons, for I bow to no king, orange or otherwise, and I will conquer every square foot of this admittedly small realm by weaving my interior styling magics through every nook and cranny, and nothing, not the tacky taste of corporate tyranny nor the flaccid fashion phallus of fascism, will stand between me and the castle in my head. Let's get delusional with it. Every great interior styling choice starts with at least a drop of delusion, especially with the fantasy aesthetics I've been covering this summer in my Moda Misfit Summer Nights Dream series. Watch the playlist to catch up, and Castlecore is no exception. So I'm going to give you some inspiration for this style by giving you a bunch of Castlecore decor ideas and then showing you how some of them can come together in a living room design. And if you're new here, my name is Steffi and this is Hilo, and on this channel I talk about small apartment styling tips, cozy living, some of the more niche, alternative, and fantasy styles, and the joys of living alone. So if you're into that, consider subscribing and giving this video a like. So first, let's define what Castlecore is. It's an aesthetic that draws upon medieval and Renaissance and fantasy-inspired castles. And Castlecore decor would be like if you dressed your apartment up in Ren Fair cosplay. Speaking of Ren Fair cosplay, I think I'm gonna take my chainmail off because it is irritating my head. Being a knight in shining armor it's hard work. There we go. I am officially an off-duty knight. So with Castlecore, think walls of stone, hanging tapestries, Gothic cathedral-style windows, chainmail, candlelight, and Camelot. And I want to emphasize the fantasy element of this style. If you're going for a Castlecore look in your space, it's not really about historical accuracy. Castlecore is definitely a romanticized, fantasy-driven take on castle-oriented visuals. There is the historical side to draw upon, but you really can lean into the fictional side. And the fiction's where the fun's at, like with anything. And then aside from the fantasy and the romance of it, there's a strength to Castlecore that I find especially appealing in this chaotic time we're living in. Like, I definitely think there's a reason why Castlecore is trending now of all times. The threat of tyranny and the dragons of fascism are rearing their ugly heads as we speak. So I think we as a society are drawn to the idea of armoring up. We want the escape of fantasy, but we also have some fight in us. I don't know about you, but for me these days, my daily temperament is constantly shifting back and forth between rage and just pure disassociation. One second I'm a brave knight, the next I'm a damsel in distress. And I feel like in a way, Castlecore captures this back and forth, this push and pull between fantasy and reality, escapism and confrontation, creativity and violence, the romance of a fairy tale set in the brutalism of a medieval stone castle that's probably been besieged a few times too many. We're living through the modern besiegement of the castle that is our democracy, and suiting up in armor and chainmail just sounds appealing right now. We're all worried damsels who are also brave knights at the same time, staring down the orange face of a mad wannabe king. Castlecore just resonates right now. And to take it back to decor, you can use this damsel knight friction in your apartment styling. Be the knight in shining armor that saves your damsel in distress apartment from being boring. And the idea is to draw upon the fantasy of this style and interpret it for your particular space. Take inspiration from movies and shows like Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, The Witcher, A Discovery of Witches, Outlander, The 10th Kingdom. I mean, just take your pick from the fantasy canon of your choice and really observe the visual details going on. Castlecore lives in and is derived from fantasy media. So if you needed an excuse to watch The 10th Kingdom for the 100th time, here it is. I mean, suck an elf, I'll join you. Absorb the fairy tale visuals and think about how you can interpret them into your modern real world space. Armor up, protect your mental and physical castle, and refuse to let this world descend into a beige box hell. And here are some specific decor ideas to help you do that, starting with wall decor. And I am gonna kick this off with a banger. This wallpaper. I mean, honestly, I don't think there's a better way to do this style than to transform your apartment into a medieval castle courtyard. And if I were to do Castlecore in my apartment, I feel like this wallpaper would really help trick my brain into thinking that it's actually living in a castle. Like, please blue pill me into a castle courtyard matrix simulation where the real world doesn't exist. I'm begging you. But really, this would make such a beautiful statement in a room and would even create the illusion of more space because of the sense of depth it creates. It almost looks like you could walk right through that archway, like a Wile E. Coyote painted tunnel optical illusion. The perfect kind of illusion for a small space. Now we have what I think is an essential for Castlecore: tapestries. When you think of castles as they're depicted in media and fine art, tapestries hanging against stone walls are a huge part of that aesthetic. And they're a beautiful way to add texture, visual interest, and large-scale statements in a space without having to resort to the labor-intensive act of putting up wallpaper. These are a couple I really liked as I was searching for tapestries for this video, but oh man, there are so many beautiful options out there. Just do a search and take your pick. There are also a lot of blankets that can be hung as tapestries, and this one particularly tickled my fancy. There's so much to love about a knight surrounded by flowers, wearing flower printed armor, carrying his big scary axe like a big scary boy. The duality between masculine and feminine here is just wonderful. It's fun, whimsical, a little gay, and perfect for the Castlecore theme. Then to continue with the whimsical fun, I found these two pieces of cat-centered wall art. On one hand, we have this gorgeous piece of a female knight holding a cat. I mean, I could just stop there. If someone says female knight holding a cat, I'm sold. You needn't say more, but I guess I will. Obviously, I love the possible stories here. Is she a knight who has to hide the fact that she's a woman, Mulan style? And this captures her in a brief moment of solitude and vulnerability when she can allow herself to soften, be herself, and do the best thing anyone can do, cuddle a kitty. That's what I see anyway. And like the flowery night blanket, I love the dance between masculinity and femininity here. And then on the other hand, we have this silly medieval cat. I love the fact that artists in the Middle Ages seem to fundamentally not understand what cats look like. Look at any medieval art with a cat. They all look absolutely cursed. It's awesome. Or maybe they just didn't have any interest in capturing cats realistically and instead painted their essence. And this is what they saw as the essence of cat. Whatever their deal was, I think a small, silly detail like this would add some levity to your decor, while also lining up with the Castlecore theme. Now let's switch gears from silly and whimsical to a darker, more gothic flavor. Of course, an image of a spooky, literal castle would be perfect for this look. It's on the nose, but at the same time, I just really like this one personally. I love these colors and how the black clouds are encroaching on the castle like a menacing spirit. I have a thing for spooky gothic castles, what can I say? And if there was ever a time to fully embrace them, it'd be with Castlecore. And then there's this gargoyle harpy piece, which something about her just speaks to me. I just get her. Like, girl, whatever you're screaming about, same. This is the feminine rage that's simmering inside me on a daily basis. I feel like so many of us are perched on top of our castles screaming for crazy things like equal rights and bodily autonomy, you know? Now let's move on to a simpler, less emotionally charged type of wall decor. You know, something like this. With Castlecore, you want to find ways to mimic the architecture of castles, much like how I talked about mimicking the architecture of Rivendell in my Elfcore video, and finding ways to create the shapes found in medieval castles, like their Gothic cathedral-shaped windows, is a great way to do it. So something as simple as this design would give you an element of castle architecture without having to actually live in a castle. And this is another case where there are so many options out there. Just type in cathedral window wall decor into Google or Etsy, and you'll find all kinds of ways to do this. Very easy, very apartment friendly, and very Castlecore. Now, before I move on to the next section, I wanted to give a little bonus mention to this artist, Outermost Accessories. Like, my jaw dropped when I found his Instagram, and I found him while I was trying to find chainmail wall decor, which I wasn't having any success with. And even though everything he sells is jewelry, it looks like he's started to venture into wall art. So who knows? Keep an eye on him and see if he continues to do pieces like this. And if you're anything like me, you're just as obsessed with jewelry as you are with home decor. I love to decorate my apartment, but I also love to decorate my body. And I have very particular taste. If a piece of jewelry doesn't look like it was cursed by an ancient sorceress and an evil spirit could burst out of it at any moment, then I'm probably not going to be interested in it. His jewelry is the epitome of my style, so I'm probably gonna have to order one of these. And I couldn't resist giving him a shout out in this video because I have a feeling a lot of you are into jewelry too and would love his work as well. I'll link to his Instagram account in the description, as well as the links to all the decor pieces I'm featuring as usual. Now let's get into some Castlecore decorative accents. You know, the little touches you can incorporate throughout your apartment to give it that castle vibe. And step one to achieving that vibe is to create that dimly lit, moody ambiance of a medieval castle, which of course means candles. And here are a few very medieval castle-y ways to display candles. Anything with wrought iron or Gothic cathedral shapes is gonna help transport you to an old castle, or even a castle dungeon. These sconces are particularly dungeony, which I think is fun. Kind of intimidating, sure, but who says our apartment styling shouldn't scare a few people away? And a little dungeon decor doesn't hurt. Unless you want it to. If that's what you're into, no judgment here. But strictly as decor, these sconces, lanterns, and candelabra I found are perfect for Castlecore and a great way to display the candles that will give your space that moody ambiance that electricity-free castles have. Another decorative accent you could incorporate is something a little different, like this lute. And of course, this is obviously more than just decor, it's an actual instrument, which would breathe so much artsy, creative life into a space. I love when a room has a few guitars or a piano, both from a musical perspective as well as an aesthetic one. And a lute, that's just so unusual and fitting for Castlecore. As someone who genuinely loves listening to Renaissance lute music while I'm cozied up on my couch writing or editing, I'm just personally inclined to like the idea of having a lute lying around, even if I can't play it. Could be fun to try to learn though. At the very least, it's a beautiful piece that would take your apartment back to a time when lutes were the vibe of choice. Another visual trope I think of when it comes to Castlecore is the gargoyle, the ultimate castle protectors and drainage systems. Of course, there are so many ways you could incorporate gargoyles in your decor. I mean, look at all of these, but I like the idea of opting for fun and interesting interpretations of gargoyles, as well as your standard dark Gothic fare. But something small scale like these little guys, these would make such cute coffee table decor. Like imagine placing one on a stack of books and leaving him in charge of guarding over your precious coffee tablescape. Plus, I love a good crystal moment, so the marriage between gargoyle and crystal to me is a really pretty way to interpret gargoyles. Look at them, they think they're so tough, but at the end of the day, they're just pretty. And they're just fun little guys that you can collect like Pokemon. Get one in each color, gotta catch them all. Little moments of levity in decor are always a good thing, especially when it comes to these whimsical fantasy aesthetics. It's a way to show your personality and maybe a little bit of sense of humor. Like this gargoyle doorbell is another example. It's just kind of funny. A tiny little detail that greets you at your door every day, maybe makes your neighbors laugh, and does what gargoyles are supposed to do anyway, watch over your castle. Now let's soften things back up with a couple throw pillows. A pillow that depicts stags or a dragon like these two just look like they could have been found in an old castle. This dragon pillow is a no-brainer. Its colors, design, and subject matter are utterly Castlecore. And this pillow not only has a very medieval art design on the front, but it also has a really cool back that feels a bit more witchy. So you can flip it back and forth depending on your mood. Like, are you a noble huntsman today or a crafty witch? Choose the side that fits your vibe. Moving along, let's get into some lighting options for Castlecore. Of course, the first thing that comes to mind for me when I think of Castlecore is the iron chandelier. From mysterious castle halls to rowdy taverns, chandeliers like these really are a go-to fantasy visual trope. And the simple addition of a statement-making chandelier like one of these would create an immediate impression of Castlecore in a room. I mean, imagine, if you ditch the boob light and replace it with this baby, you're already halfway to ruling your own castle right there. Then something like this lamp would be so majestic. Look at the shadows it casts. It not only creates that dimly lit, moody vibe we're going for, but it also creates the illusion of castle architecture with its shadows. This would be a show-stopping piece. You could get a couple of them and place them in opposite sides of a room, and just imagine how cool that would look. And with the early nights of fall and winter coming our way soon, you'd be able to enjoy this beautiful light play starting at like 4 p.m. until bedtime. To me, that sounds just like pure cozy splendor. I can't wait for fall. It's almost here. It's almost here. Then we have another more literal on-the-nose piece with this night lamp. Sure, it's obvious, but still perfect for conveying this style. And you know I can't resist a good storytelling piece. Look at this brave knight, shouldering the burden of your mood lighting, carrying with him the destiny of ensuring your apartment is always a vibe. We thank thee for thy sacrifice, courageous knight. Now where exactly is your on button? And finally, this lamp gives us a way to incorporate chainmail into a room. I really was on the hunt for chainmail decor for this video, but it turns out there just isn't a lot out there. But this lamp is exactly the kind of thing I was on the hunt for. What I love about chainmail is even though it's meant for battle and is therefore very hard and masculine, it's also simply beautiful. There's a softness to it in addition to the hardness. It's flexible and kind of moves like fabric, and there's a little sparkle to it. It's just very visually interesting material, and in the form of a lamp where the light can enhance the sparkle of it, I just can't resist that. It would be a lovely addition to a Castlecore space. So those were the Castlecore decor ideas I found. Now let me show you how some of them can come together in a living room design I created. I mean, first of all, look at how much heavy lifting this wallpaper does. This is why I love wallpaper. It really does so much in terms of communicating a style in one fell swoop. And this one is like Insta Castlecore. And when you pair it with all these medieval-esque accents, like wrought iron, chainmail, this tapestry, and throw pillows, see how all of this comes together to create a Castlecore picture within a modern context. So even if your apartment is a bland beige box like mine, when you bring these kinds of things together and tell a cohesive Castlecore story with them and really go all in with it, you can at least create the fantasy of Castlecore. And I also included a few additional pieces to complete this design. This rug that kind of echoes the style of medieval tapestries, this sideboard that looks like it has dungeon doors, and a simple, timeless, earthy brown sofa. And a fun little bonus with this couch is it's actually a sofa bed, so it can fold out, which is always useful in a small apartment. And then if you wanted a simpler version of this design, here's what it would look like without the wallpaper. Kind of goes to show that although the wallpaper helps, you don't actually need to go that hard in order to convey Castlecore. This still gets the style across, just in a simpler, more understated way. Overall, it's all about using classic materials like stone, iron, and old wood, paired with soft medieval style embellishments through art, tapestries, and throw pillows. It may not magically transform your apartment into an actual castle, but it will cast a kind of illusion spell that will help you conquer the boring builder-grade curse that seems to plague so many of us. Let me know in the comments, are you feeling that same sort of kinship to Castlecore right now? Because I mean it when I say there is a societal reason why it's a hot trend right now. Say what you will about trends, but I personally love them and I'm fascinated by them because I think they hold a mirror to what we're going through as a society, culturally, politically, financially, you know. I just think that you can tell so much about a time by the trends that were happening. So those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments what your take on Castlecore is, and also, as usual, let me know what fantasy aesthetic you want me to cover next. At this point, I've done hobbitcore, fairycore, the sea witch aesthetic, elfcore, goblincore. Check out this playlist and you can catch up on all of these. It's full of decor ideas and inspiration for these fairy tale styles we love so much. So give this a watch next.